Hello, everybody. This is Nicholas Tanek from YourKinkyFriends.com. I have an absolutely wonderful guest with me tonight. She's an escort. She does what they call the girlfriend experience. She does some amateur porn. She's a professional dominatrix. She's also a suicide girl. And so please welcome everybody, Princess Chayse Rose. Say hi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Princess Chayse or Chayse. I'm 28. I live in Seattle. I generally go under the umbrella term of sex worker just because I do cover kind of so many different facets of the sex industry. Yeah, I have 2 cats and a dog, and I watch far too much Netflix. And I'm an avid reader. I listen to a ton of music, mostly metal. And I just moved, so my hands are covered in paint because I'm painting my house right now.
Great. Okay. So let's get into it. Real quick, tell us about your journey because how did you end up here where you are now? Because you're very, very what's the word, varied when it comes to kink, and you're obviously out as a sexual person. So how did that come to be?
So since I was underage, I knew that I was kind of a sexual being. And so I'm one of those people who just kind of grew up, being very interested in sex and sexuality and psychology. And how I ended up in sex work was I was 20 and I was on Adult Friend Finder, banging dudes for free, kind of like you do. And some guy approached me, and I read the offer, which was, hey, are you interested in getting $25,000 for a 5-way gangbang? And I immediately knew that he was full of shit, but I wanted to see how far he was going to take it and just how dedicated to this fantasy he was. So a few days later, he goes, well, if you're cool with that, like, I've got a friend who can get you paid dates. And at the time, I was recently divorced. I was living in transitional housing because I had been homeless, and I had been given custody of my 2 little brothers and was in college, had no job, and had no way to support the 3 of us. And so I was like, well, I mean, I'm already getting mediocre sex for free, so why not get mediocre sex for pay? Like, duh. But it seemed really sketchy to me. And so I actually went on to FetLife and went into like Ask a Woman and was like, hey, somebody approached me about doing this. Can anybody from either the buyer's or the seller's perspective kind of tell me what's going on? And Kitty Stryker, who I think at the time was in San Francisco, messaged me and was like, hey, here's what you need to know. Here's how to get started. And she helped me get started on my own. And that was almost 8 years ago. And I started trying to do the domination stuff. I didn't quite take to it as I was hoping to. Ended up switching into full service, and from there, in the last couple of years, especially this year, I've tried really hard to branch out and try different things.
Okay, one of the things that I'm kind of fascinated by is the girlfriend experience. Please explain what that is.
So the girlfriend experience is a style of session, and so you have things like the porn star experience or the girlfriend experience, or you can branch into stuff like doing kink. And so the girlfriend experience is kind of supposed to be somebody who kisses you, touches you, makes you feel heard and needed and like into you, and it's supposed to be an overall a little more of a tender experience. I definitely do, while I label myself kind of under the girlfriend experience, because my style tends to mesh a little bit more than that, I definitely have porn style experience sessions, and I also, in the last couple of years, have worked really hard to kind of become known as what I've termed the kinky girlfriend experience, or what I call a hybrid session, where full service can happen. But you can also indulge in your kinks, like, cross-dressing or financial domination or trampoline or, pegging, whatever suits your fancy. But also being able to have somebody who, will do things that not all doms do. And so it's something that I find really fulfilling. And I think that it's kind of a newer branch off of sex work because I'm starting to see more full service doms.
Have you ever seen the movie The Girlfriend Experience?
Oh God, that had Sasha Grey in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was terrible.
Yeah. So as a pro dom, what? Well, first of all, with the Girlfriend Experience, I was under the impression that like they take you out to dinner and they take you to movies and stuff like that. Does that happen too, or is it really just kind of like a sexual thing?
That can happen, but it definitely is usually a sexual thing. And so in Seattle specifically, and I don't know if it's unique to the rest of the sex work world as far as full service goes. Oh shit, I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? It is the girlfriend experience is generally one of the proponents is bareback blowjobs. And I don't know if that's the same for the rest of the world or the sex work world. So that is one thing in particular that dudes tend to look for when they're booking sessions. They're like, I really want to be forced to wear women's clothing, but at the end, it would also be really nice if, I could get a beach.
Okay. Now, as a professional dominatrix, femdom is very vast.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly vast. What are the most popular things that kinks that you do?
I do a lot of beginner butt stuff. So a lot of guys see me because either they've already seen me before in the girlfriend experience and they've opened up that comfortability, or because I offer those hybrid sessions, they feel that it's there's a lot of misconception about what a dominatrix does, and a lot of it, people think that you're mean and you're shouting and you're yelling and you're insulting, which can happen, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's also a softer side of pro dom in that, and not pro dom, but BDSM in general, which is finding somebody that you trust and you're safe with to explore. So I do a lot of beginning butt stuff. I get a lot of people who are interested, like, hey, do you have like a piece of lingerie I could wear? I dated somebody who is a closet crossdresser and sissy, and so that was kind of my introduction to that, and that's something that I've really, really become to enjoy. I love spanking. Impact play is my favorite thing to do and to receive, and I've got tons of implements that I'm constantly using. And
I'm sorry, when you say butt play, do you mean like butt plugs and pegging?
yeah, so starting with a finger, trying out prostate massage, putting in a plug, even going as far to start doing pegging. I think I turn a lot of guys on to butt stuff because one of the things that on the local board that I speak about semi-frequently is doing a prostate massage with a blowjob. And the combination of that experience being one that will, quote, make you see Jesus or whatever God you believe in. And so I think once guys have experienced that, they're like, oh, what stuff is kind of great. And, also being the voice to remind them that, like, liking stuff in your butt doesn't make you gay. Not that there's, again, anything wrong with being gay and liking stuff in your butt, but there's that stigma.
Yeah.
Comes with butt play, and so being the hot chick who's like, no, like liking butt stuff doesn't make you gay, kind of being that reassurance and letting them settle down into their fragile masculinity a little bit more.
Yeah. Now you're also a professional submissive sometimes, right?
Yes. So I actually got started in the kink scene as a submissive. I found my first dom when I was 17. And he introduced me into impact play. That was where I realized that I was also a masochist. I have been kind of hard up on ever saying that I am truly a submissive. I consider myself more a bottom because what I do is not necessarily always submissive stuff, but getting spanked or being tied up or what have you.
But would you say that most of the customers that you have want you as a dominant?
Yes, by far. There is definitely a market for professional submissives, but it's a very small market. And I've got a couple of friends who like pro sub in Seattle, and I dabble in it, but my preference is to either do like the hybrid sessions or the pro dom sessions.
Okay, now what about your personal life in the bedroom? What are the things that personally kind of, and I hate the saying this, but like the personally get your, the flames hotter for you inside?
So for me, and I think it's important to note that I've been, like I said, I've been doing this for 8 years. I do really enjoy what I do for the most part. It is a very fulfilling job, and in its own way, it stokes my own flames. In my personal life, however, I tend to be submissive or bottom only. I am a masochist, and so my partner will, beat the ever living shit out of my ass, and it just makes me, the most content, happy person ever.
So your partner a man or a woman or cis or what?
So I am dating a cis het dude.
Pardon?
I'm dating a cisgendered, so a straight cisgender hetero dude.
Okay.
Which is pretty funny because I actually identify as queer, but for the time being, I've settled down with somebody who is not on the queer spectrum himself.
Okay. Great. I'm always curious about how kinky people meet. So, how did you two meet?
We met online, and he was completely vanilla when we met. And so we started hooking up, and he was like, well, like what, he kind of asked the same question that you asked, what just like what really gets you going? What are you into? And I was like, well, I like being bitten. And so he started biting me, and then it was like, well, what else do you like? And so it was kind of just this downward spiral of, okay, what else do you like? What else can I do for you? And to the point where now he's like, I know you've got to go to the brothel for 2 weeks, but man, I really wish I could beat your ass and turn it black right now. And we flew to San Francisco not too long ago, and he actually had to, because he carries around a backpack, he had to take zip ties out of his backpack that he keeps in there for me.
Oh, okay.
I'm a slippery bottom, and if you tie me up, I will do my best to get out just to be.
Yes.
Oh, fuck you.
Back to sissies. I forgot a question. A lot of sissies, and I know that you do chastity play, and that's part of a large part, not the only part, but to many sissies and femdom stuff.
Yes.
Do you have anyone in chastity now?
I don't, sadly. I did have one of my exes, the one that was a closeted sissy. I had him in chastity for quite some time, and also had him, wearing panties and like small bras and like lingerie and thigh highs underneath his work uniform, which to me was a little extra delicious because he has a very alpha masculine job where he's around a lot of other like kind of very masculine men. And so I was a little extra delighted to know that he was in chastity and in lingerie, and that if he bent over, which he frequently had to do as part of his job, that he might whale tail his thong out of his pants.
What's the longest you had him or someone locked up, like without?
Not too terribly long. I think I went like 2 or 3 weeks with having him locked up, and the downside was I didn't have any. He was not polyamorous, although I am, and so I didn't have really any outlet. So there were times where I'm like, I am unlocking you just because I want to use your cock right now. Like, I'm not doing this for you. I don't give a shit about you, but I need your cock, so I'm unlocking you.
Oh man. Okay. So all right, let's get serious for a second here. And I know this is an issue that you are serious about as well. FOSTA laws are
Bullshit.
And they're scaring sex workers, because what it is, for those who don't know, who've never seen the other episodes or doesn't know anything about it, it's a law that for sex against sex trafficking, but it's written in such a way to kind of shut down sex workers. The Craigslist misconnection. Craigslist personals got shut down. Backpage, which was a major resource for sex workers, got shut down. FetLife changed a bunch of their policies and everything like that. So how are you dealing with, as a sex worker, how are you dealing with FOSTA SESTA and what steps can people take who care about the sex industry and care about, sexual expression? What can we do to crush this or change it?
That's a really good question. So yeah, all of those websites were affected. There were more websites affected. Backpage going down is really interesting because it was a great avenue for low income survival sex workers, which are predominantly women of color or trans women of color. It allowed them to access advertising for very little money, and it's really terrible what's happened. Because I have diversified so much, I do night flirt where I'm on the phone doing phone sex operation. I do amateur porn, so I've got, a little trickle of revenue coming in from there. And I've also started working at a brothel for 2 weeks at a time. So I have very luckily to not have my business be affected by FOSTA-SESTA, but I am one of the few, and I'm very lucky. What was part of the other question?
What can we do to?
What can you do to help? So the biggest thing, honestly, is calling politicians and letting them know that you think that this law and laws suck, and let them know that you do not support them. 97 out of 99 senators voted yes on FOSTA-SESTA, and that includes Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. And Kamala Harris. And so people need to know that these kind of socialist, democratic, politicians voted in favor of this. And so, we've got elections coming up here soon. And it is time for people to start really letting politicians know, like, if you do not support sex work, I don't support you. Because and also right now, Elizabeth Warren is trying to push a bill through that will make it difficult to impossible for sex workers, and this includes all sex workers, not just illegal sex workers, to be able to get banking, which would mean that would make it hard for us to get things like a loan or buy a house, or even have a freaking debit card so you could buy stuff. And so, the other thing is a lot of people who are not connected to the sex work industry have no idea that this happened. So also bringing it up to your friends and being, you see things on Twitter, or if you're on Facebook, and, reposting things and saying like, hey, FOSTA-SESTA sucks. Do you know what this is about? Let me tell you what it's about. Let me tell you how you can help, because I'm very out and open to everybody in my life about it. So, I've even told my freaking hairdresser, like, FOSTA-SESTA sucks, like, this is why, and going on Facebook and telling my friends. And I've had, civilian friends call their local politicians all the way up to, higher up, and call them and let them know and say, like, somebody that I love and care for is a sex worker and can be impacted by this law, and I don't stand for it.
Yes, I totally agree. And I talk about it probably way too much, but also not enough. If that makes any sense.
There's no, you can't talk about it enough, because the people that are being hurt the most by this, they do not have the luxury often of having a voice, because they're so busy trying to survive that they can't go and, spend a full day making phone calls to senators. And so, those of us who have the privilege of speaking up and speaking out have to do that for them.
Definitely. And also, there's also the stigma where they don't listen to sex workers as well.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's like,
what sex
I have no idea. And it's like, we've been shouting over here. We will tell you what we need. We will happily tell you exactly what we need. And you won't listen. It's like, oh, well, you're a sex worker. What would you know? I know what I need. I know what this job entails, and I know how to make it better. And so, a lot of people, even liberals, not Republicans, usually not Republicans, Democrats, are like, oh yeah, legalize sex work. And it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Thanks for the support in that direction, because we do prefer that over saying, burn them all in hell. But legalization is actually not the ideal way to go. Sex workers want decriminalization,
Yes.
Which is different than legalization. Because when you legalize it, you run into some really weird laws, and that's something that I've actually experienced being a brothel worker. So there's the house that I go to, and it's the law everywhere. After 5 p.m., you are not allowed out of the house. You cannot leave the premises after 5 p.m. unless somebody who works for that brothel, like a bartender or a manager, goes with you. Because, God forbid you go out into the town and solicit the townsfolk, and, they require testing once a week for chlamydia, syphilis, and gonorrhea, and then once a month for HIV and syphilis. What you'd run into if you legalized full service sex work nationwide is you would run into a bunch of old white dudes, for the most part, creating laws that will police mostly women's bodies. And I mean, not all sex workers are women, or not all sex workers who pretend to be women are even women. Like, there are trans sex workers. Having those people who do not understand how it works and how things are best, deciding these laws gets really screwy. And we've already seen that, old white dudes cannot be trusted to make good laws about women's bodies.
Now, I know it's. You said you had 2 cats, and I hear that the cat's in the background.
Yes.
What are the cats' names?
That is Cinder. We call her my schizophrenic cat. She has kitty schizophrenia, so she often wanders around the house and is just like, meow, just the saddest meowing cat ever.
Oh.
And then I have another cat named Satan, named for her charming. Actually, we've changed her name to Cardinal Satan, as in the Catholic religion cardinal.
That's good.
And then I have a dog named Sadie.
You have Sadie?
Sadie, yeah.
Sadie. I have a dog named Moki.
Oh.
She's got diabetes, and she's.
Oh no, the beatus.
Yes, yeah. If I had a black cat, I'd name it Soy Sauce.
Why?
Just because soy sauce is black, and I think it's a cute name.
Soy sauce is brown.
What? No, it looks black.
It looks black in the bottle, but when you pour it out in like those little shallow dishes for sushi.
That's why. Julie Klausner, she has a cat, which is a cool name. It's a tuxedo cat, so it's all black, like
it has a little patch.
Like a perfect triangle, upside down triangle, and she named it Jimmy Jazz, like a lounge singer in a tuxedo. Right. Yeah. Okay. So.
Actually, let me go grab Satan. She's such a grumpy lover.
Grab Satan. In the meantime, check out yourkinkyfriends.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Nicholas Tanek. There's Friends Kinky at Friends Kinky on Twitter, at Friends Kinky on Instagram. Nicholas Tanek on Twitter. On Facebook. Yeah. Oh, hi, Satan.
This is Satan. This is Cardinal Satan. Say hello, Grumpbutt.
Hi, Cardinal Satan. You're so cute with your devilish eyes. All right. So, obviously, you rock this kind of punk goth girl style, which I absolutely adore. The very first woman that I fell in love with as a teenager was, had that kind of style too. Who in style-wise and, I guess, lifestyle-wise, who inspired you?
Oh, God, that's a really good question. So actually, one thing I wanted to correct you on, which actually ties into this, you had mentioned that I was a suicide girl. I'm not, but I use that kind of tagline because a lot of people know what a suicide girl is, and I feel like my image kind of encompasses what a suicide girl is. But my former stepsister was the first suicide girl.
Wow. Okay.
And I met her when I was 14, and she definitely inspired my style. And I kind of look back now and I go, man, I definitely have turned into the adult that I wanted to, of having a cool wardrobe and, doing whatever the fuck I want with my hair and having tattoos and piercings. So, you know, I was, when I was 13, I started getting into rock and punk and metal. And you don't see a lot of, definitely more now these days, but you don't see a lot of female led bands. So a lot of, you know, my desire to be tattooed and pierced actually came from, I lied. I wanted to get my tongue pierced when I saw the video for Say You'll Be There by the Spice Girls because, God damn it, Scary Spice had a tongue piercing, and you see it very clearly in the video. And I was like 8, and I decided then that I wanted my tongue pierced.
All right.
You know, there's definitely been, you know, Dita Von Teese, although she is problematic in her own way. Let's see, Maria Brink from In This Moment. God damn it, I am struggling with names. Ash from New Year's Day. Motionless in White's lead singer. Actually, the whole band has got a great look. Yeah, I don't know. I also just kind of do my own thing, and whatever appeals to me, I do. So I feel like that's kind of gotten me to this kind of hybrid, like kind of pin-up-y, kind of gothy, a little bit punky kind of thing I've got going on.
Well, I love it. Okay, you were quoted. This is you. Humor makes everything better. I 100% agree. My book, Your Kinky Friends, is about when I read about me, it's about me dealing with grief and the pain of loss and everything like that. But my editor says it's the funniest book about dealing with grief and loss and depression and stuff like that. And I can't agree more. I love to laugh. I love comedy. I love, I love people with a good sense of humor. So, who are some of the people who are well known, who do it for you? What shows or movies really do it for you?
So the funny thing is, speaking of comedy, haha, funny. See, that was a pun. I actually watch a ton of comedy. Surprisingly enough, I've got a good friend named V Chatty, who is a stand-up comic, and I really love listening to their jokes because they're a sex worker, and so I can relate on a lot of levels to their jokes. One of my taglines is that I say is that I love bad puns, dad jokes, and all sorts of irreverent humor. And so, if there is a pun to be made, I am making that pun. If there's an inappropriate joke to be made, you better watch me. I'm going to take it. And so, all the people in my life know that I just, I'm constantly cracking jokes. I'm a very sarcastic person, but I also love, I really love puns.
There's this, it's filled with puns. There's this app called, it's a game show, but it's a live game app. It's called HQ. And it's live, and you could win money. It's a trivia show. It's 12 questions. It's fun. You could win money, sometimes up to 200 grand. And it's just filled with puns. Filled with puns. Yeah. Do you have any favorite comedians?
The problem is there's so many comedians that like their stuff of theirs that I really like. And then they also have super problematic jokes. And so I'm stuck between this was really good. Okay, but you're also really fucking racist, or you're really fucking homophobic. And so I have a hard time finding any comedians that don't touch into problematic jokes.
Yeah, that happens. I think some of them, like Mitch Hedberg is someone who was absolutely wonderful, and I don't think ever had any problematic jokes. Todd Barry, Patton Oswalt, like maybe he did make fun of midgets, or he used the word midgets early on in his career, but that changed.
Yeah. One of the comedy, actually, there's 2 comedy specials that Eliza Schlesinger did, and I really liked those, but I haven't followed any of her other stuff, so I don't know if she's done anything. I just these days with the way that social media is set up, people, it's you can't really be a shitty person anymore in secret. Like, it just becomes known. And so I'm so scared of like every person that I like be like, oh yeah, I know, I really like this person. 3 days later, they're like, they killed a small kid, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you said you're addicted to Netflix. What have you been watching lately?
So season 4 of Madam Secretary just came out, and that for some reason is something that I love. Although I laugh because I think that her politics are not my politics, but it's still a show that I really enjoy. I mean, it's fiction, so there's that. I also watched the new episodes of Nailed It, which is a baking show. And so what they do is they take amateur bakers who try to recreate creations from like professional bakers.
Mhm.
It's pretty great. So I kind of branching into something else. I am partially disabled. I have something wrong with my neck that they don't know what's wrong. They just know that it has been resistant to all form of treatment. So I started smoking weed this year to deal with the pain. And so Nailed It is one of those shows that when I'm in a lot of pain, I can go and smoke and get high and watch, and it's just kind of mindless, what I call wholesome content. It's just, it's nice to watch. It's easy. Everybody's pleasant to each other. So it's good fun. And then I'm getting into season 2 of Westworld right now.
I saw season 1. I didn't see season 2 yet.
So in the brothel, ironically, my friends and I started watching season 1 of Westworld, which we were like, the whore becomes the hero, and we really love that. And so while I was in the brothel in between clients, we would watch Westworld. And so I got into season 2, but because I was getting up and down for lineups constantly, I missed a bunch. So now I'm going back and like sitting down and actually watching it, because it's one of those shows that you really do have to sit there and give it all of your attention, because there's so much going on.
Okay. Speaking of prostitutes in the brothel and sex works and stuff, what films or television shows do you think accurately portrayed, a prostitute?
So I want to just bring it up that the preferred way to refer to some sex worker, not a prostitute. We're trying really hard to kind of get away from that. I mean, it is technically the legal term, but the more PC term is sex worker.
Okay.
And some shows get it a little bit right. Most of them get it drastically wrong, because there's usually 2 tropes that they follow. One is, the cracked out streetwalker who's not a pimp, who is being abused, and it's just a sad, it's the Law and Order SVU sex worker is one of your very typical tropes, and they're the ones who always get killed. So, side note, I actually was watching the original CSI, and I was keeping a flow sheet of when they killed sex workers, just because we seem to be such a common victim in like these murder shows. And then you have the other trope, which you see in a show that my partner just reminded me about, which is Diary of a Call Girl with Billy Piper.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And so you get the trope of, it's been a really long time since I've seen it, but if I remember correctly, she's kind of a higher end call girl who does go out, to dinner and dates and stuff like that, and men buy her gifts and spoil her. And so you've got either the really, really bad off sex worker or the really, really good sex worker. And what's missed is this huge gap in the middle of what I call middle class sex workers, where we're just trying to get by. And I actually for a while was running a Patreon called Middle Class Whore, and I was talking about my experiences as somebody who identifies as a lower to middle class whore, and just my daily life, and that I'm the same person that you see in Costco buying cat litter, like I'm just trying to pay my bills and maybe save a little bit of money, so that way if emergencies happen, I can take care of myself. And like, I'm just trying to live my life. And that is really kind of the most common thing. And the other thing is with these 2 tropes that you see, it influences society to think either, oh, sex work must be amazing and awesome, or sex work must be awful and bad. And again, you've got to remember that that's a spectrum. And so in the middle, you've got the days where, it's like any other job where, you have good days, you have bad days, you have good customers or clients, you have bad customers and clients. You have days where you want to quit your job because you just can't fucking take it anymore. And you have days where you're like, I cannot believe I'm getting paid to do this. And all of those are acceptable ways to do sex work. And so I get caught because I don't want to be this trope of the happy hooker, where everything is great and all my clients are wonderful. Every day is great. But I also don't want people to be like, I'm trying to make the awareness that we can have bad days too, and the solution is not to say, hey, why don't you quit your job and go work somewhere else? Because that's not always an option for everybody. And even if it is an option, like, I'm allowed to have a bad day, I'm allowed to have a bad client, and it's okay. Like, it doesn't make sex work bad. It makes it like any other job.
Okay. Now, obviously, it can bring in some, you know, bad people. How do you vet your clients?
So I vet through a multitude of ways. Usually, and that's something I actually don't want to get too deep into, just because part of what helps protect me is my clients not knowing exactly how I'm screening them. The most common way, however, and again, this may be more centric to Seattle, although in the cities that I have traveled to, I have used them too as references. And so, a guy will say, hi, I'd like to see you. And I go, great. Do you have a reference? Meaning, have you seen another sex worker before that I can contact who can vouch that you'll show up on time, that you'll be well behaved, that you're hygienic, that, you're discreet, because, you don't want, some guy standing on, your front porch saying, hi, I'm here to see a hooker. And so that is the most common way is to see if he's seen somebody else before and have that person verify. If not, there are other ways. I will take deposits. I will take copies of IDs. I will do meet and greets. So we'll go meet out like at a Starbucks. Well, not Starbucks, because fuck Starbucks. Go meet at like a small coffee shop or whatever. In Seattle, there's one called Gay City that I try to do most of my meet and greets at, because it's a nonprofit and it helps support the gay community in Seattle, and I think that that's really important. So why the hell not? Anyway, and also I've been doing this for, like I said, close to 8 years, and in that 8 years I have gained a lot of insight and wisdom and a gut instinct. So usually I like to brag that within generally about 3 texts, I'm able to decipher whether or not the guy is serious, or if he's a time waster, or if he's, jerking off, trying to get me to, give him a free session or whatever. And so a lot of it is instinct, especially post FOSTA. And that's one of the hard things is we have lost more screening options, and that makes it more dangerous for us. And, when you criminalize the buying and selling of sex, it makes it to where, the customers are good, what we would call a good customer, the ones who typically have a wife or children or a high paying job, or, a job where they're out, they've got friends and family where, if it was to be discovered that they were buying prostitutes, that, they would lose their entire livelihood. And, we don't want that. So they tend to go away. And so what we're left with is kind of the scummier clients who, because we still have to pay rent. And so, if you're $300 short on rent and you've got some asshole who's like, I'll do an hour for $150. And you're like, well, that's $150 for rent. And he's just he's, God, what do you call it? Haggled, your half of your hourly rate, and you've agreed to that. That's damaging to you, and it's damaging to the industry as well.
Yeah, understood. And you have to answer my next question. Basically, what advice for men when approaching a sex worker, what would you give them? Anything to add to that?
Do not be explicit. For the love of fuck, do not be explicit. You know, the best way to contact a sex worker is first figure out the best way she prefers to be contacted. Some prefer email, some prefer being called, some prefer being texted. Do your research, figure out how she wants to be contacted. Say, hi, my name is Nicholas Tanek. I would like to see you next Tuesday or next Wednesday, either at 3 p.m. or 5 p.m. My reference is blah, blah, blah. And you, like, if you send a message like that, just, you know, it's short, sweet, it's to the point, it gives me your information, gives me everything I need to know, you're more likely to get a response like that. But if you send a message where you're like, hello, mistress, this, you know, slave wants you to turn me into your toilet, like, I want to meet you now, you do $100 for 5 hours, like, sending me a message like that is guaranteed to get your ass blocked or chewed out.
Okay, now what advice would you give for women or you know, or trans people who want to get into sex work?
Honestly, right now, I would say don't. This is probably one of the most dangerous times to be a sex worker currently, one of the hardest times. And so if it's something, like, if you have other options, do those other options. And that's the other problem with FOSTA and SESTA is if I say, oh, well, first you need to do this, and second you need to do that, and second, you know, third you need to do that, and especially on a live publication like this, where it's not just a live stream and then it's gone away forever, where this is actually going to be published and on the internet, I could get in trouble. I could get charged with a felony for helping traffic somebody by giving advice. And that's awful, because, you know, so much of sex work, at least for me, relies on my community and being able to talk to my fellow sex workers about things that are going on. And, you know, also, as like I mentioned earlier, you know, there was a sex worker who didn't know me at all, who contacted me and helped me get started, and I am forever grateful to her. And part of, or I think their pronouns are now them, part of my way of paying them back is by helping other sex workers get started. But after FOSTA and SESTA passed, I have to be really, really careful, because I could be setting myself up for a felony.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to do here with this whole community and network of your kinky friends. We're trying to give back to the community and help just kinky people in general, whether they're sex workers or not.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everything you do. Okay, let's have some fun. First of all, rapid fire questions, and they never go rapid fire.
Okay.
Right? There's only like 3 or 4. Okay. Name the last movie, not the last movie you saw, but the last movie you saw. Could be old, it could be something you've seen a million times, it could be brand new for the first time, but the one that either just like really hit you emotionally or made you laugh hysterically, or just like that you absolutely loved.
So I'll go with one that really had a deep impact on me, and it's actually why I have this jellyfish tattooed. So it was the movie 7 Pounds with Will Smith. And so kind of the premise is he's this brilliant, like, rocket scientist. And he is texting while driving on a windy road and ends up getting into a car crash, kills his wife, kills, like, a bunch of other people. And through the movie, I don't want to spoil the entire movie because it is a really good movie. But he ends up, spoiler alert for 7 Pounds. He ends up killing himself, but he does it with a jellyfish, and he kills himself in a way that benefits I think it's like 5 other people. So, like, he donates his heart to somebody, he gives his house to somebody, he gives a fuck ton of his money to somebody. And so what I took away from that is that, you know, life is a cycle and death is part of that cycle. And death doesn't have to be bad. Death can be beautiful because it can become the beginning of new cycles, and good can come from that. And so that just really, really stuck with me. And I think that's part of why I'm always, you know, I I'd like to think that I'm semi-known for being somebody who's always down to help another person.
I totally agree with that. When Lynn died, you know my story.
Mm-hmm.
When Lynn died, I was devastated, and I wanted her to be a tribute. Like I wanted to make a tribute to her, and I wanted her to kind of inspire people because she's been through hell and came up, and she inspired me in so many ways. And by me writing this book about her, The Coolest Way to Kill Yourself, I totally changed my life, and I made so many new friends and connections, and it's my next cycle. It's my next cycle, and me and other people have benefited from it, and I'm very, very thankful for that. And so, and the main thing was that I didn't want her death. I wanted her death to help others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was something that I wanted to make happen. Okay. Second question. Recommend a book. Any book. It doesn't have to be kinky.
Oh shit. God, I read so many books. You have no idea. Hello, Satan. God, what am I reading right now? Oh, I am reading. I think it's called "The Woman Who Smashed the Code," and it's about the woman who was part of a married couple, who basically invented cryptanalysis. And this started in the First World War and really came to be in the Second World War. And the part that she played in it was really kind of underplayed, and I think that was actually by her design. It's following like her part in helping end World War II to begin with, and also what she contributed to the field of cryptology and cryptanalysis.
That sounds interesting. I like that. I'm very interested in World War II stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, do you listen to podcasts?
Very rarely.
Okay, all right. So we'll skip that question. All right, what is the last song? It could be something you've heard a million times. It could be something that's brand new. It could be or it could be new, or it could be old, but you just heard it. But what was the last song that you really like? Either hit you very emotionally, or you really got down to, or you rocked out to, or you made you like totally dance to. Yeah.
That is a really good question. I'm actually going to grab my phone and I want to make sure I got the title right. So there is a band called Bloodywood, and they are from India. And right now they are doing this genre mashup that's called Punjabi metal. And so they're mixing all of these old like Bollywood songs, and they're mashing it up with metal, and it is so good. And the last
what's the name of the group?
Bloodywood.
I have a friend who probably loved that.
Bollywood, it's Bloodywood. The song is called G V Ray. Jeeveerey, and so the premise of that song and the video that they made is it's also about cycles and overcoming hardships and coming through the fire stronger. And at the end of the video, they said they have come through Patreon is how they've come to be, and through their patrons and their own work, they paid for 60 counseling sessions for anybody who needed them.
Wow, that's amazing. I will definitely check that.
Yeah, and they're like, mental illness is a really, really big issue in our society right now. And I agree, as somebody who struggles daily with mental illness. And so for me, that them doing that in the song that was associated with it in the video just really, really touched me.
And I noticed you said that you were disabled and you have a neck problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a writer, and shout out to her. Her name is Sassy Witch 666, and she writes often about being kinky while being disabled. She has I forgot what it's called. I can't even pronounce the thing she has, but she gets tumors on her nerves, and it's really painful. And
fibrosarcoma.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it. So, do you have, for someone who is disabled, as you say, would any advice for any other people who are going through physical ailments or even mental ailments who
Yeah.
still want to be kinky and still want to express themselves?
For me, at least, my biggest thing has been feeling like a disappointment to my partner because part of what I deal with is chronic pain, and so when you're in pain constantly, it really drains your endorphins and your stores, and that is what is used doing like a heavy impact scene. And so it's been hard for me because I feel like my partner is not able. My partner and I are not able to do things that we normally pre-neck bullshit would have done. And so communicating with my partner about, I know that we would ideally love to do this, but instead we're going to have to do that. Yes! We're back.
Shout out to Tangle Blue. She made this specially for me.
I love it. Communicating and being forgiving on yourself and your body and your brain for being fucked up and for not being able to do the things that you would want. And, being willing to figure out compromises. And that's the biggest thing and that's, I think, with disability or mental illness, with anything, or physical illness, anything that you deal with that's going to be in the long term is learning how to compromise. I want to go out and get hammered and go to a metal show with my friends. Instead, I will not headbang and I will sit in the back. Or, there's just so many things. Just being flexible and forgiving.
Okay. All right. Let's get silly. Okay.
All right. I am nervous about this because
here.
I am angry and I overthink things, and so you'll say a word and my brain will just freeze. So I am a little nervous about this, but I'm going to have fun.
We have two rules about this. First of all, this is the famous word association game. Now, I do this off the top of my head. I mean, I have a list full of questions I can barely read because my handwriting sucks. But Tangled Blue, she's just a fantastic, wonderful person. Shout out to her. She sent me this list, this jar of words, and they're random words. Not all of them are kinky. Some of them are just plain. She has a very absurd sense of humor, and so do I. Very weird, very absurd, and very fun. So some of the words are going to be our kinks and fetishes. Some of them, I gotta fix my ears. Hold on.
There we go.
That better?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, some of the words are, some of the words, like the words I'm going to say are mainly kink related, fetish related, BDSM, whatever. And then every once in a while we get something. I don't know what's in here.
All right.
I know like a couple, but seriously, and yeah. So basically, we have two rules. First rule is we don't like the kink shame here. So if I say something that's not your kink, just say not my thing. Okay. If I say something that is like something that like you really do not like, just say not my thing. That's it. Okay. And the second, free your mind. It doesn't have to. You don't have to say clever thing. If I say chastity, you could say potato, and that's fine. Okay. Ready to go?
All right, let's do this.
All right. Sissies.
Yes, I love them.
Okay. Corsets.
I love them as well. I wear them all the time.
Brothels.
I've worked at one.
Okay. Let's go into the jar.
Ooh.
Switch.
Light switch.
That's good. All right. Pegging.
Not the switch you're talking about.
Yeah. Go absurd. Pegging.
is a lot of work.
I can see that. Yeah.
I didn't realize how much work having a dick was until I strapped on and like pegged somebody, and I was like, "Oh, buddy, I am sweating."
All right. Choking.
It's a lot of fun, but you need to ask before you do it to somebody.
Okay. Fire play.
Not my thing.
Okay. Wax play.
Fun.
The daddy baby girl dynamic.
Is something I partake in, and I think that caregiver little dynamic is a lot of fun and very special, and I think it's really misunderstood, and I would like to see more people talking about it, more understanding, and less stigma.
Well, shout out to Tangled Blue. You would. I hope you're. She can't. She's camping now, but she would love this, and she'd love you and love your answer. She's a kitten, so.
Oh yeah. That was my first
Okay.
introduction into the caregiver little dynamic. Was my previous partner, who was the sissy. He started out as my daddy, and I started out as his kitten, and then things evolved into, oh, by the way, I'm actually a sissy, and I want you, meaning me, to dominate me. So we ended up switching, and that's that.
All right, going in the jar.
All right.
I don't know what this is. Egg butt.
Sounds uncomfortable. I don't know what that is. It sounds uncomfortable. Also, let's not put raw eggs in your butt. Maybe if you're going to put eggs in your butt, actually you should just not put eggs in your butt, because you need to be able to retrieve whatever you put into your butt. And let's not go to the emergency room and have them have to take an x-ray of your ass because you decided to shove eggs up your butt and you can't get them out.
Okay. And here's one. Yes.
Consent is important.
Yeah. It's a good answer. Okay. What's it? The 50s household dynamic.
I think that can be a lot of fun, but the feminist in me is kind of inclined to go, ew, women weren't treated well then. And if that is the dynamic that you want to explore, I think that is perfectly okay. Again, it's about consent and the dynamic between two people. And so, if one partner wants to be the kept woman who, cooks all day, cleans all day, irons the shirts, and makes, when the other partner comes home, they have a martini ready or dinner's ready, and blah, if that's what tickles your feathers, like, go for it, have fun.
Okay. Kickball.
Ooh, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Wait, no, that's dodgeball. Shit.
His play.
Disc play?
His play. Water sports.
Oh, I love peeing on people. I think it's one of the greatest things. It's so much fun. And, people seem to think that, like, being able to just take a whiz on somebody would be super easy, but it is not. And, like, when I first started doing golden showers, which is what they're called at least in the escorting world, and I think in the BDSM world as well, it actually took a lot of effort to be able to relax enough to be able to, like, piss on somebody. But these days I'm just like, all right, yep, all right, where are we doing this? Because the place where I work has linoleum floors, and so I can literally just, like, lay down a couple old shitty towels and, like, have them lay on the floor and just take a piss on them in the middle of my room. YOLO.
Duct tape.
Is good for tricky submissives and bottoms who try to continue to escape, also known as myself.
The human centipede.
Ew.
Never seen it.
Okay. All right. Garter belts.
Sexy.
Okay.
Inchworms.
Inchworms.
Aren't those the ones that do this motion?
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion on them.
Okay. All right.
Do they make you think of anything?
Do they make you think of anything?
No, just the motion. Because they, like, yeah, this is not the correct motion, but they do that. And I'm going to stop with the motion now.
All right, the violet wand.
Those are a lot of fun.
All right, and finally, scat.
Not my thing. And I don't really understand why it's a thing for other people. But I know other people feel the same way about stuff that I'm into. So not my thing. But if that is your thing, just don't go to a hotel and like shit all over the place and like wipe shit all over the place and leave it for the maid to clean up. Like that's rude.
Yeah.
Like you do your thing, but clean up after yourself because just because you're into shit doesn't mean anybody else is.
That's true. Okay.
And also consent. You know.
Yeah.
Maid did not consent to cleaning up your shit, so stop.
Okay, I forgot to ask you one thing. We have a series of articles every Thursday called Thrifty King Thursday. Now, it's basically about BDSM on a budget. So I and Tangle Blue and Miss Melissa and Sassy Witch 666 have all written articles about it, and we all say support high-end BDSM equipment, corsets, paddles. Like if you have the money, get the quality stuff, support it. But not everybody has the money. So
well, and as far as I'm concerned, there are things that are worth saving up for and splurging on, and then there's other shit that's just overpriced, and you're like, I can get this, from Amazon for $2, although with the whole Amazon recent strike thing, I'm trying to reduce that. My favorite thing to do is to go into a kitchen section in a store and find the pervertibles, as I call them. I love going to Goodwill, and same thing, going into the kitchen section of Goodwill. I have this metal mallet that's about that big, and it's supposed to be a meat tenderizer, and so it's got those pokey things. And I got it from Goodwill for like $2. And let me fucking tell you, great CBT toy.
Oh my god, yeah.
Totally. I found like a metal knife sharpener. It's got like a wooden handle on it, and so it's just this tiny rod. It's probably about 3 or 4 millimeters wide, so really narrow. That is a fucking cane to not be messed with. Like that is, I can barely hit somebody with that because it's so painful.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you.
Oh, and Goodwill is great for beginning sissies. So if you're exploring sissification or cross dressing, Goodwill is great because they usually, or like any, not the Salvation Army because they are anti-LGBTQ plus, but like Goodwill or any thrift shop is a great way to, if you're curious, to get some cheap lingerie, and also get lingerie that, like, say you're married and you want to explore sissification but you don't feel safe telling your wife about it. Like that's a great place where you can go get like kind of a one-off lingerie, redonate it, and then you've gotten the experience that you wanted from it.
Okay. Great. So Princess Chayse Rose, it has been an absolute pleasure and honor speaking with you. So now's the time where you plug everything you got, even if it's not kink related. If you're working on a book, if you have an Etsy store or an eBay store or whatever, if you knit and you sell sweaters or whatever, it's just promote everything. Go.
So the easiest way to find all of my stuff is to go to my website, which is chaserose.net.
CHAYSE.
ROSE.net. Yes, Chase with Y. That has the link to my Twitter, my Instagram. It has my Kik, my Snapchat. It has links to the amateur porn that I do because I produce my own amateur porn. I also did my first paid semi-professional porn shoot, which I do need to link up on that. You can find me on many vids, I Want Cams, amateurporn.com, Night Flirt. I'm on FetLife, but honestly, I very rarely use it these days. And then from August 13th to 27th, I will be at Bella's Hacienda Ranch in Wells, Nevada, working at the it's a brothel.
Wonderful. Oh, you know what? Actually, I wanted to ask you.
Oh, and I'm available for real-time sessions in Seattle, and if people want to fly me to them, I'm totally down to be flown to do sessions and stuff. And all my session information, like my different styles and rates and all that, is located on my website.
Yeah, and also on your website, you have a very interesting thing called etiquette.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, you know, shows what to do and what not to do. And I would highly recommend anyone who wants to approach not just the sex worker, but just anyone in the kink community to read it. You know what I mean? So, okay. So we're going to wrap it up. You could catch me, Nicholas Tanek. I'm on Facebook. We have a very secret Your Kinky Friends group. It's very funny. It's very silly. We have a lot of fun there, and it's secret. So, like, your niece or your nephew or your grandmother who's also on Facebook won't know you're there. You can catch me on Twitter at Nicholas Tanek. There's also the Your Kinky Friends Twitter at Friends Kinky. The Instagram is at Friends Kinky or Nick Tanek, NickTanek. I'm always there. You can go to Your Kinky Friends, one word, at FetLife. I'm always there. We love to promote stuff. We love to interview people. We love to write articles. We love to promote your work. We love to promote kinky people, especially ones who are positive and are doing something good for the community. So it's been, seriously, it's been an absolute pleasure talking.
It's been great. I'm so glad we did this.
Yes, and after we sign off, stay online. So
Okay.
I'm going to talk to you for like 30 seconds real quick, and I'll let you go. So it's getting late, my friends.
Yeah.
My dom is calling me.
All right.
I gotta go.
Bye.
Stay kinky, my friends. Bye.